So I'm going to start. Please. Thank you. After the coffee break, I promise you this is another sweet for the last part of the day. So this part is about the Marine Information System and the Marine Data Store. I will briefly make an overview of both those systems. So sorry producers, but this time you are the small boxes on the schema, but this is only for this time. So here is the emphasis on the Marine Information System, and in red the Marine Data Store. And we can also see all the websites. And users go to our Copernicus Marine Service either through the websites or the Marine Data Store directly. So the Marine Information System, what is its role? So this is a system element which is in charge of the organization and management of the product information, so the metadata, and of the management of the users. And the Marine Data Store is in charge of the organization and dissemination of the data themselves, and to make them available through standard interfaces to users. Standards in the sense that for all data, this is the same interface. We have put in place a technical working group in charge of harmonizing producer practices on the data, and also to provide support internally to the Copernicus Marine Service during every technical transition. It could be a change of formats during the releases, or a change of system, like from the dissemination unit, which was the previous system, to the Marine Data Store. About the previous systems, so since the beginning of the Copernicus Marine Service in 2015, there has been 3 different systems, each adding additional value to our users, giving more and more freedom to download the data. It has been a difficult road sometimes, even for us and the users. So last year, it was decided to give users a toolbox that will simplify the way to get their data and to be interface agnostic. So this is a tool that is free and easy to use. It is intended to cover most of the use cases they could have, and to obfuscate every complexity that the dissemination unit and now the Marine Data Store has. I've put a link if you need more information about this toolbox, and after me, there will be also a detailed presentation about it. I will continue with a small dive into the Marine Information System. So there are 2 main parts, the catalog and the authentication. The other services are for internal purposes, mainly at Mercator Ocean. So I will only detail the catalog and the authentication part. So the MIS catalog is the official component that delivers all the metadata to the public. It is compliant with the INSPIRE directive, and it follows the ISO 139 norm. It is mainly a machine-to-machine interface that is used by outsiders and also used by the Marine Data Store to enrich their internal metadata catalog. So this is an output. If you can read it, great. For the authentication part, last year we did a full rework on the Marine Information System. It was mainly an upgrade of all the components, a complete change of infrastructure and security, and we also took the occasion to change our authentication system, moving from the CAS to the OpenID Connect protocol, which will be served by the Keycloak component that is present there. This transition has already started at the end of last year and will end up in July 25. What it will bring to our users is that they will be able to connect to other services outside the Copernicus Marine and still be able to use their Copernicus Marine credentials. Our first target for that is the Wikio service. That was the main information I had to present to you about the Marine Information System. We can now go to the Marine Data Store. And of course, if you have questions, do not hesitate.
Hello, I'm Elena, working at Lobelia, and will present the Copernicus, the Marine Data Store, and then I will let the floor to Renaud, that will present the Copernicus Marine Toolbox. So the Marine Data Store, what happened last year? I will start with some context, a bit of history, because last year a lot of things happened, then some latest evolutions that are interesting for all of us. I will close the year with a usage overview, and finally, I will introduce the next developments and steps for the coming months. So the context, the initial version, we know at the beginning we had the formal dissemination unit with his services providing data. At the beginning with the first version of the Marine Data Store, as we know it right now, we were having both systems, so the dissemination unit providing data is still operational, and then we had the Marine Data Store with the ARCO conversion, the ARCO data cubes, and all the services like the viewer, and then arrived the toolbox, and so they were working, let's say, in parallel during the transition phase that ended in March 2024 when the dissemination unit was decommissioned and replaced, if we can say like that, by the delivery validator that is ingesting the data and the system providing data, copying them moving them to the cloud. We do the ARCO conversion. We made available to users the original files, so your data that you upload, and the ARCO version for, in particular, visualizing and for subsetting. Before starting with the latest evolution, I would like to introduce you as well some very latest evolutions in terms of MyOcean, the MyOcean viewer. You probably know it. If you don't, we will do a demo right after during the poster session. If you have questions or you want to know more, please come to see us. The MyOcean viewer is used to, is a client for users. It's used to visualize data, all the data that are in ARCO. You can access also this data. You can download them in original format or via subset when available. You can create graphs. You can compare layers between them. You can compare products between them. And in the last year, we have integrated some different products. As we see here, for example, we have the in situ that can be visualized. We can see the platform. We can see the values of the variables. We have the vectors for everything that is directional variable. Well, now with the new version released last week, we also have particular animations, so we can see on the right, for example, the Katrina hurricane. And for the in situ, we can, yes, visualize them on the map and compare, but we can now select, get some metadata, get profiles and time series. We can merge for better comparison, and we can compare this observation with other layers and other products. So it's very exciting. It's a very good news. It's something that we were working a lot for this. We are sure it will be beneficial for the community, for the users, in terms of user experience and in terms of communication as well, because it's something very visual and is very impacting. So as I say, we'll do a demo. It's already in production, so in case you want to explore it either right now or later, you can. You just have to access MyOcean. You can check by yourself. And in case, we will do it a demo later if you are interested. Now, latest developments, we start with the ARCO data and metadata. We have, right now, 100% of the catalog, the Copernicus Marine catalog, that is available in Stack and in native, which means that all the files that you upload can be accessed and can be downloaded by the community, by users. 94% of these products are also supported in ARCO. We can see here the evolution across the year of 2024, November release of 2023, how this has been, the percentage of products of the catalog has been increasing. We had some, let's say, major improvements in terms of when we started archiving and supporting in situ dataset, when we start supporting altimetry, along track altimetry dataset. We had some better improvement for we supported climatology dataset, some ocean color, 300 meters, so the high resolutions, more in situ. So, I mean, we made a lot of improvements on this. We are now supporting 94% of the products in ARCO, which means that this 94% is available via subset in MyOcean and as well in WMTS service. Of course, with some adjustment. I will talk about this in the next developments part. And during this year, regarding WMTS services, we have been working a lot on the new features, the get capabilities for the metadata, get tile for visualization, get feature info for obtaining information about the variables, the location of a specific point of a specific pixel. And we also added vector fields and multiple projection, as for example, the polar projections. In terms of, let's say, management, in 2024, we handled the two releases, so the June release and the November release. The June release was a, let's say, small release, but it was very important for us because it was the first release for the Marine Data Store as operational. So it was important, and the system worked fine. Everything worked very, very good, and it also allowed us to define the first integration report that we use internally with Mercator for following all the evolutions and follow all the status for the components in the Marine Data Store. Then we supported successfully the November release that we know that it was a big release with more than 800 changes. We had an increase of around 30% of data volume. And of course, we handled also we are still doing it, we are supporting the double distribution period with some exceptions when it's needed because of other reasons. So the system, as I was saying, is working fine, is working well. This is just for monitoring. The system obviously is monitored continuously. We have here examples for the 2024, the year from January to December. For the native service, ARCO service, and WMTS service, in general, we had, as you can see, for the availability, some small outages, but we had a success of an availability across the year of 99.9%, which is good. It's a good news. The system is working very well. Also, in terms of delivery validator, the data upload timeliness was on 90.2%. So everything worked perfectly also during the November release. We didn't have any big issue. And we had, by side, latency that it's between 200 and 400 milliseconds. So the system is working fine. We are monitoring continuously, as I said. We also worked on a new monitoring system. Here we have just an example for December 2024. This helps us. We have here a screenshot of the KPIs, so availability and latency. We also have this system internally also help us to monitor the vitals of the virtual machines. The ARCO processing, so if there is an issue in jobs, this helps us to support you in case something is not compliant with the ARCO version that we have, the ARCO format. These reporting jobs help us to understand what is wrong, how this could be fixed, and if it should be reported to you, we can give you all the current information that you may need to have a quick fix. And of course, something that it was already on place, but we are always working to improve that, the real-time alerts. So if something happens, we are automatically, instantaneously alerted. The system is working and the service is used. It's a good news. For the last year, we are talking about more than 11 petabytes of data. This is the whole catalog. We had more than 7 billion of requests, around 2,000 and 4,000 users per day. As I say, this is the whole catalog. You can, of course, get similar information for your products, as we have created the MFC and tax dashboard, so you can access them. In case you want more filters or something more particular, please let us know, because we still improve this. So very quickly, the system is used. We can see that beside the first months of transition, we have a growing tendency that is still growing. Is per day, the time step is per day, so we can also see the recurrency of weekends, weekdays, the holidays, the November release. And we can see that in general, everything is growing. For example, we can see that in green, the toolbox on the bottom is also growing. I will not spoil Renault's presentation, but just to show you that things are going well. WMTS, what is yellow on the top. Also, we can see how the features that we have been implementing are helping users and are more and more used. And of course, more support we will cover, we will support. More usage will be for the data, more subset, more requests as well. So, well, is it growing, and will continue growing. Now, next developments, starting with ingestion improvements. We will improve the monitoring of data ingestion and dashboard. So the objective is to provide you some accesses, some dashboards, so you can follow by yourself the upload of data. Yeah, we will apply some better quality checks to be sure, for example, that the ingestion path is correct and is not, well, everything is working fine. We'll also apply some automatization of safer software deployment and configuration, and of course, we'll keep, in all this, we'll keep maintaining the activities and support the ingestion in case it's needed, especially for the November releases, well, June release as well, that we know that can be very stressful and very, very big. What we expect for ARCO data, of course, we now support 94%. It's not the 100%. We want to increase the support. We started that we will continue supporting the climatology and what is coming new, the anomaly data sets. For the polar projection data sets, we reach an agree and we'll provide both long lat data cubes, so to facilitate the interoperability with the rest of the catalog as we see here, so we can visualize them in MyOcean, we can create graphics, we can download them via subsetting. But at the same time, we will also create the original grid data cubes that will be available through the toolbox. And we believe that will be well received by the scientific community that need to subset polar projection dataset. So we will try to make a step forward on this and increase this coverage and provide these data that are very requested and very needed. Sorry. And of course, we will apply different approaches in order to increase the support and support as well what we call non-periodic data set, as we have an example in the right, as this data set is a sea ice observation, is already available. So in this case, we will probably go well, we will need some collaboration with you. During the technical working group, we already discussed some approaches. In some cases, it will be a one-to-one discussion because we have to agree on this. And we will also improve the metadata. Something that is very needed, and something that the community really wants, is to have better data signaling. So we will have new metadata that will indicate when data is currently being updated. We have an example for InMyOcean, for example. And we'll also update new metadata that will inform when the latest data is updated and is available. This will help, we believe, will help users for their automatic and recurrent scripts. So they will be sure that they are downloading the latest file uploaded. And of course, we would like to add metadata to have more accurate description of native data sets and try to reduce the differences. And we would also like to add additional metadata for the usability of data. That can be InMyOcean or, for example, WMTS. We want to add, as part of the evolution we want to add the legends. So we would like to have metadata that help us to understand, to have a better view of the data. You are the producers of the data. You know what is the best. So we want to really have this collaboration and this communication. We also plan, of course, as now they are in ARCO, to support in situ data and along track altimetry data, and in WMTS, maybe something requested by some users to add additional projections, so not only equatorial projection or polar projection, but to add some others. We in discussion with users. Of course, as I say, we will continue improving the dashboard and statistics. If you have anything, you need anything, please let us know. And we will, of course, support the upcoming releases now for the 2025, the June and the November, and we will do more technical working groups. This is for later, but we will organize more technical working groups so we can ensure this communication and collaboration between all the parties. And that's all for the Marine Data Store. I let the floor to Renaud.
Hi, everybody. My name is Renaud, and I'm a data engineer for Lobelia and working as a developer of the Copernicus Marine Toolbox. So yeah, I'm going to present you the toolbox. It's not really a demo per se, it's more like a high-level explanations of the interface. So we'll talk first about what is the Copernicus Marine Toolbox. Sorry if you're already a user. It might already be obvious to you what I'm going to explain. Then we'll talk about the usage and the adoption by the community and why should you use the toolbox. Then we'll talk about the current state of the toolbox, which is the version 2.0. And then we'll talk about the future evolutions and the roadmap. So what is the toolbox? It's basically a Python library and also a command line interface. The idea of the toolbox is to be an interface to the Marine Data Store that is programmatic and that can be used into pipelines and operational processes and applications. So we have 4 main functions that I will present. Here I'm not talking in details. For example, there's a lazy loading of the data. Which is the open data set, but yeah, you can check the documentation later. So I think the main function of the toolbox is to use this famous ARCO data, infamous ARCO data that we talked about, and because the idea of this ARCO data, cloud optimized, is to be subsetted. Is that instead of getting the whole data locally on your computer and try to get whatever you want, is to directly get whatever you want. So we have the subset that we call. For example, this is some code that I use. I went to my ocean, define my area, click on the automate button, and this is 6 years of the Normandy coast temperature of the sea. And it takes like 30 seconds to download on my computer, for example. We have various options. The way you select the data, you can do by area, time, depth. You can also choose the format in what you save in. We have NetCDF and ZAR. ZAR is the format of data that is actually used for the ARCO data. So there's like several options. Then we have the GET. So in some cases, for example, right now the in situ datasets are not available in the toolbox for subsetting, not yet. You can directly get the original data. So the NetCDF files that are on the database. For example, I put just a Python snippet that you just run this, and you have the whole dataset on your computer. And then there's also like several options, maybe less than the subset, because basically we're dealing with a list of files that can be downloaded. So you can filter them by name. You can also use the sync functionality to compare what you have locally and what is on the server, notably with when the files has been modified. So different options. And then finally, we have the describe. The describe is basically the way the toolbox will parse the metadata, all the stack metadata of all the Copernicus Marine catalog. So this is a way to organize the metadata, and this is what the toolbox in the backend will use to actually make decisions on the subset and things like this. And that is that then you can also be used to have some more information also about how the toolbox is organized, the versions, the parts, and everything. There's also the fourth function that is the login, but basically it's used in the subset and the get, and it's used with your Copernicus Marine credentials to log in to use the toolbox and to access the data. Now, what are the advantages and why you should use the toolbox? Well, first, it's just a Python library. Basically, you do 2 lines in your command line, or even like a fresh Windows. You download Python, you download the library, and you can get the data. That's as simple as this, with your Copernicus Marine credential. Then we have like all the standard Python library installation with the pip and conda. And we also have some alternatives for users that have different setups, like Docker images or binaries. This is utilizing the really powerful stack that is in place in MDS, which is the S3 and ARCO format. I'm using a bit of buzzwords here, but it's to be a bit fancy. And it's highly performant and highly flexible, which allow you to get, as I said before, the data for example, in long time series, very, very fast. There's no quota. It's a simple authentication. We have the login, as I said, to help you create a credential file. You can just pass your credentials in every request, or you can even have environment variables. So it's quite easy. And everything is done locally, so that you can scale yourself your system to the data you want to request and use. Then something important is that also the toolbox knows. It knows a lot about like the data, how to parse the metadata, what each field means in stack. What is a release date and a retire date, and how to handle the different versions of the data sets. And of course, I'm not saying it knows everything. So if something is wrong or you have anything, just like don't hesitate to contact us and tell us about your use cases and how we can do better. But the idea is to accumulate this knowledge into this piece of code. let's take a very striking example. The ARCO data is organized in two different ways to access those ARCO data. Depending on what you want to do, either you want to have the geo-chunked, which is, we call it lasagna, like the pasta, because it's like you have a map and it's per time, or maybe you want it in spaghetti. So it's like long time ranges and small part of the map. So in your application, what should you choose for your subset? Well, the toolbox knows. About the usage statistics, so the distribution, as I said, we have a PyPI, like any modern Python library. So around 16,000 downloads per month. We're also on Conda Forge, 20,000 in total, and some people use the Docker image. And yeah, from what we monitor, we have 2,000 users per month, approximately, and 500 for the get and 1,700 for the subset. We can see that it's increasing actually, the subset, and that the get is quite constant since the change from the DU to the MDS services, and that we can see that we don't have a lot of temporality, so the weekends and the holidays are not that pronounced. So we have a lot of actually operational users that have the toolbox in their automatic processes and pipelines. Also, we can see that we have, as I said, a lot of users that are operational. So for example, if we take the daily users, which are users that made at least one download in 20 different days within a month, we have quite some. And it's the privileged way to access the Copernicus Marine data. Now let's talk about the current state of the toolbox. The V2, our idea was really the stability and the robustness. So we worked on improving those things. We did many things, so I'm not going to detail everything here, but basically we deleted some problematic dependencies. We try to document what is the output of the toolbox so that it's more predictable and that we can assure you that we're not going to add breaking changes in the future, so you can know what to expect, what is returned. We don't have the cache system, which was a problem in a lot of systems of user setups. We added, for example, a functionality to select your data that is that can tell you if your request, you want it to be inside what you requested, or your request is just the limit of the data you want. And yeah, and a lot of things. Then we also aim to be more cross-platform. So the idea is that the toolbox can be used in anywhere, so that it can be installed. So that's why in the V2 we added the binaries. And we also now support Python 3.13 and the new NumPy versions. We improved the performance of the subset. So especially the small downloads, before they could be quite long and use a lot of memory for not that much data in result, and it should be way better. And we also integrated actually the new login system put in place by Mercator. So now when you log in through the toolbox, you're actually logging through this new system. One thing that is important is that we added this documentation page. So like any Python modern library, we have our read the doc documentation. And the idea of this documentation is to link it to the toolbox versions first, so that it's, for the users, it's nice because they can relate to whatever version they are using. And it's also to have a place where we have examples, tutorials, somewhere where someone can start and not be lost with all the options and all the possibilities. This version 2 brought breaking changes as a merger version. We removed and renamed some options. For example, the forced download has been deleted. And now if you start the command, it will download directly. So be aware. And we also changed some dependencies. As I said, we changed and documented the output format. But one thing is that this is for only major versions now. While for V1, we were in a rush to have all those features, to have the basic features for the whole MDS users. But now the V2 wants to and will bring and brings stability that we won't introduce breaking changes in V2.xy. If you were on V1 and you want to migrate with all those breaking changes, we created a migration page in the documentation to help you do that. So to point out like specific places where we change things. The support for V1 will be until June 2025, where we will solve any critical bugs that would prevent the V1 from functioning. Now for the future, first, what are we working on now? Right now, we are working on 2.1.0, and we want to bring some important features now that we're happy with the version 2. So it will be the sparse dataset subsetting. So all the in situ datasets that are right now in ARCO versions that can be subsetted through MyOcean, but not the toolbox yet. We want to add the stereographic projection subsetting, since some datasets are being arcoified with the original grid. We want to support this. And then we want to have an option to indicate the user when the data has been updated for the last time, because it has been requested and needed, because you need to know if the data you request has been updated or is being updated. For the future, now it's getting a bit less precise, but we have in mind some UX improvements for the login, maybe to be a bit easier to use, or the response types, for example, for the describe that maybe is a bit convoluted and difficult to access some information. We want to improve even more the installation of the toolbox by compartmentalizing the download. For example, if you only use the get, maybe you just need the get dependencies. We want to push testing further, because this is something I haven't talked about, but it's something we worked a lot on, which is to improve the testing so that when we release a new version, we are confident that this will work for all the users and all the datasets. And finally, maybe a long-term project would be to help users with Copernicus Marine data selection, because right now, if you are new to Copernicus Marine and you're in front of the toolbox, it's a bit, maybe what do you do? Because what do I search for? What data do I want? And that's it. Thank you for your attention. Don't hesitate to reach out and talk to us. We're always interested in use cases. And if you have the slides, I put you some links. So all the documentation, the distribution platforms, and the repository is open source. I didn't say it, but you can also go check the code if you want yourself. I guess it's Vega now.
Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to meet you all. As you know, may not know, I'm Vega Forneris from CNR, and I collaborate with MDS as data manager, and I coordinate with Jordi Domingo from Lobelia, the technical working group. And the technical working group, just as a reminder for the new production centers, and more important for the new production unit, It's a group that has been set up in 2018 when we first introduced the centralized dissemination unit for sustaining the transition for the producers on the upload phase and to help them to fill the gap between the technology and the science they were providing. We did a good job at the start, so our goals were extended and has been taken over by the new MDS teams. And in the continuity with the past, we still support the producers in the transition to the new technologies. For example, the first bullet point I underlined in italic is because it's already concluded. You may remember in April, in the spring, when we moved from the old DBS, the delivery buffer service, to the new delivery validator server, we helped the producer to adapt their script. We supported them and we collected also their feedbacks. We use these channels for improving the collaboration in critical moments like the beginning of the new releases, or we get in touch in case of needs during the new releases. Above all, the November 1 was pretty important from this point of view. And we share the MDS best practices. We try to provide us more insight about what happens behind the scenes, the ARCO conversions, for example. But not only, we gather also the production center feedbacks about these technologies. We try, moreover, to support Mercator in the definition of new standards about the format, the metadata, trying to make both the native files and the subset files converging for having one only answer to users' question. And the technical working group is coordinated by the MDS data manager. Here I am. And the technical manager, Jordi Domingo, as I said, under the supervision of Mercator Ocean. More important, every production unit has at least one participant. It is important because when we transmit information, when we gather information, it's important to spread it as soon as possible to the vast majority of the audience. And we have a dedicated Microsoft Teams team we can use. We have a SharePoint page. We don't use that much at the moment. More important and more easily, we can reach out by this mailing list I just brought here. And I wish to pass the speech to Elena.
Thank you, Vega. It's me again. Hello. Just to summarize a bit the big topics that we start discussing during the last technical working groups that are very important. Some are very hot. So it's important that we keep working on this. The purpose is to homogenize data between products themselves, so help the interoperability of the products, and to homogenize also native and ARCO formats. When? Well, during this year. Starting, either it would be the first, adapting the first convention during the June release, maybe, of 2025, or in case, do something for the November release into the end of the month, of the year. What are the topics? Some are hotter than others, so there will be more discussion for some of them. But in general lines, the idea is to homogenize latitude and longitude dimensions. We know that different products have sometimes long lat, sometimes longitude latitude, other times uppercases, lower cases, and this kind of things. So the idea is to try to find a common solution and common names, and also to have equally sorted, so from west to east, and from south to north. We have the hot topic of time dimension, start of interval against center of interval. Why we do that, and how can we change this, if it is possible to change this, if it is possible to find a solution. We want to understand, so we want to talk with you, we want to have this collaboration and understand the different cases and the differences, and find a solution, improve the metadata so that the users and the systems, like for example the toolbox, can obtain the information as they want to obtain it. And obviously the purpose is still to homogenize as much as possible. Bulletin date is another topic. We know that is an important information, mainly in providing the file naming of the original file, sometimes as attributes, sometimes no. So the idea is to find a solution. The under evaluation currently is as a new variable, so we can subset this information, and we can have in the subsetted file all the information we need, the bulletin date included. We will have to have a discussion as well about the global attributes. And finally, what I was saying before in MDS, the metadata for visualization. We want your point of view and your expertise for example, representative min and max for the legends, the better color maps that define a region or a variable. And the idea is, at least the easiest, a short term would be to have more attributes and more metadata that can then be used by the systems and by users. When we will discuss about this, we don't have it very clear yet, but the idea is to have 3 meetings during this year, one first mid-March. The idea of this first one will be to short update about the delivery validator, the upload mechanism, and some support regarding the Copernicus Marine Toolbox v2, so the new version. We will also review the topics that we just list. We will define some new guidelines, and we will have new directives for the data. Probably not ready for June, will be a bit late for June, but we will try to have something for November. And across the year, of course, we'll keep having other meetings, one before summer in June and another for after summer, before Christmas in autumn. Of course, the agendas are not defined yet, so in case you have any specific need, just let us know and we will adapt. I think that's all.
Just one reminder, for the first meeting, the March 1, is particularly indicated for the new producers. So for sharing with you the best practices, the methodologies behind the delivery validator, for example, what is a delivery note text. If you are not yet aware, because some producers comes from a previous contract, I'm thinking about our UK colleagues, they may be used to the delivery note text, for example. In case you are not, please contact us even during these days, and we'll try to set up a specific meeting oriented for these technical aspects. That's it.
Okay, so I think we are done for almost done for today. So we now have the poster session. I mean, for just inform. Then we have the dinner at 7:30. Just information for tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll start at 9. There will be no coffee room before, so come with your coffee. Take your coffee before. But the room will be open, I think, half an hour before the start. So, I mean, we should now move to the poster session. And thanks a lot for all the presentation, all the information that was shared today, which was quite useful information for all of us. Thank you.